Costanza, what is that you're eating over there? That looks pretty tasty.
It's a calzone, sir.
Calzone, huh? Yeah, let's see it. Pass that on down. Let's get a little look at that. Big Stein wants a little taste. Come on. Yeah, sit down there. That's a good boy. Okay, hey, what's in this thing?
Cheese, pepperoni, eggplant.
Eggplant, huh? That's a hell of a thing. All right, back to business. Here you go. Very good. Excellent little calzone you got there, Costanza. Okay, I'm a little jealous. All right, here we go. Like I told you last week, the renovation of the press box is taking too long. All right. Well, you know, that eggplant was very good. Very good. Everybody out. I got eggplant on my mind. Costanza, go get me a couple of calzones right now. Pronto, move it out. Big Stein wants an eggplant calzone. He must have one. Everybody out.
But I don't want to be a
secondary character.
Hello, Ivan.
Hello, Stephen.
And hello to you, our listeners. Welcome to another episode of But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. We're a Seinfeld podcast out of Melbourne, Australia, and every week we take a random episode of Seinfeld and examine the secondary characters from it. And this is our fourth last episode ever, a underrated season 7 episode we're doing this week is The Calzone.
The Calzone, that's right, the 20th episode of that series. And yeah, there's not too long to go, my friend. I mean, we've basically powered through the entire series of Seinfeld, and we only have a few episodes left. It's going to be quite bittersweet finishing this one up. It's been 4 years of some great times.
Yeah, no, it's taken us further than I ever thought was possible, and not that I thought we wouldn't get through it, but when you start something with the intent of it taking years, it always seems like a massive task, but we're almost at the end, which is awesome. It feels like a great achievement, and we've picked up lots of awesome listeners on the way, which is the main reason why we do it. But it's going to be sad as well, like you said, very bittersweet indeed.
Yeah, and speaking of the number 4, which is a recurring theme for this week, Steve, this is actually our 4th anniversary, the day that this episode comes out. So, to our non-Patreon subscribers. So, it's very, very apt. Our 4th final episode and 4 years doing this. So, weird, huh?
Yeah, a nice little coincidence there. Yeah, 4 years ago, considering, I mean, we only knew each other for probably about 4 months, actually, before we decided to do, probably even 3 months before we decided to do a podcast, and then maybe 4 or 5 months when it actually happened.
If that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started working in the same team as you at the company that we both work at. And we befriended each other pretty quickly over our love of Simpsons and Seinfeld and whatnot. And I think both of us wanted to do a podcast, and we thought, well, let's do one together. And we threw around a few ideas, but I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character is what happened. And here we are 4 years later. So a fantastic journey, and one that I will be very disappointed to see come to an end.
You will be hearing us more often, in the near future, but we'll give more details about that in the future.
Exactly right. We've got lots in the pipeline over the next little while beyond this podcast. Anyway, let's not get bogged down too much in the sads. Let's get on with this episode. Before we do, though, if you want to get in touch, you can email us, bidwabarspodcast@gmail.com. You can say hello on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. And we do have a TikTok and a Discord as well. Both of those are pretty much dead. And at this point, there's no point us activating them, really, or getting them going, considering, like we just said at the top of the episode, we are winding down the podcast. But if for some reason you want to join our dead TikTok or Discord accounts, they are there. You can also help us out by rating us or reviewing us on your podcast app of choice. And obviously, you can listen to all of our previous episodes on your podcast platform that you normally listen to podcasts through. And finally, you can support us financially too.
That's right. We are on PayPal for one-off donations if you think that we're deserving of your coin. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/bidwabast. You get this episode earlier than everyone else, as well as some bonus content. And something, Stephen, which isn't actually dead, it's pretty much alive and kicking. We have a Facebook page about Seinfeld called Seinfeldisms, the largest page, or is it the largest community on Facebook for Seinfeld? Is that right? I got in trouble from you for using the wrong word last week.
Oh, I didn't get you in trouble. I just wanted to clarify, just to be accurate. Yeah, it's the largest Facebook group about Seinfeld. Yeah, so a page is, where the owner of the page posts the content. A group is where anyone can post, and it's much more interactive. So we have the biggest group, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So check that one out. Anyway, Seinfeldisms, it's the intersection of reality and Seinfeld in our lives. And Stephen, I have one Seinfeldism this week. What about you?
Yeah, I've got one as well.
So this happened only 20 minutes ago, Steve. I was on the couch just before we started recording, and my fiance put up, or she cast a Facebook video on the Chromecast, on the TV. And it was a Comedy Central skit, and it had Tina Fey, Amy Schumer. I forgot who the other one was. And it also had Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It was like a skit where Amy Schumer's walking through like this forest or this kind of thing, and they see the other three having like a high tea sort of thing. And there's a celebration of Julia Louis-Dreyfus becoming unfuckable. So it's actually the day where she's, too old to be considered fuckable. It's like a skit kind of thing. That was pretty funny. And then they do like all these ritual kind of things. It's pretty funny.
This rings a bell. I feel like I've seen it or someone's told me about it, but the unfuckable thing rings a bell.
Yeah. And it's like she's celebrating the fact that, she's 60 now and, she's not as desired as she used to be.
Yeah, obviously poking fun at Hollywood's obsession with youth over, and not embracing people's age and experience, and having a go at the shallowness of Hollywood.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty clever skit. And you see Amy Schumer freak out because she's obviously like 20 years younger than them, or 30 years younger than them. So she's like, oh shit, is this what's going to happen?
Yeah, she's currently, according to the skit, she's fuckable, but her unfuckableness is only a matter of time.
Yes, indeed. But anyway, that was my Seinfeldism, buddy. What about you?
Nice. Well, mine's not really a Seinfeldism in the classic sense, or our classic sense, but I decided to, I'm a big, regular listeners of the podcast might have picked up over time that I'm a big fan of metal, sort of my bread and butter music. I started a new Instagram account called Sign Metal.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I'm just posting every day or so. I'm just posting a couple of pictures of any sort of combination of heavy metal and Seinfeld. So, there's tons out there. I've got a couple of like heavy metal / Seinfeld t-shirts. The band Grindfeld, which we've talked about in the past, comes to mind. There's all sorts of stuff. So if you're a metal fan or if you just like some cool content, check it out. Sign Metal on Instagram.
Lovely plug there. Excellent. Yes. All right, Seinfeld news, mate. How many articles this week?
Just 2 this week, continuing on with the lower amount than normal, same as last week. The first one, this is not specifically Seinfeld related. However, it is a real life event that is directly relatable to Seinfeld. So and where it happened, it's not a nice thing that happened, but the Seinfeld relatability, I guess it's a positive. So in New York through the week, an 83-year-old woman was catching the subway home from wherever she was, I don't know. And on her way home, she after she got off the subway, she was actually mugged by a man, and I think he was after her purse, and she sort of fought back, or maybe he slipped or something. It didn't work out exactly as he intended, and the only thing that he stole from her was actually a loaf of bread.
You're kidding. Nope. Oh my God. I don't think he would have run off with it with glee like Jerry did. He probably would have just dropped it and ran off. Oh my God, that's funny. It's actually good that the lady was able to escape. That's good to hear.
I mean, the article that I read didn't really talk too much about, whether I'm sure she was shaken up and probably taken to hospital just to make sure she was okay. I'm sure this would be quite hard for anyone to deal with. But the fact that they didn't talk about any serious injury or trauma makes me believe that, she got out of it relatively unscathed, which is good.
And good for her. Yep.
And like you said, the assailant only got away with a loaf of bread, not her personal belongings or money or anything like that. And and obviously the relatability with Seinfeld is the marble rye, where Jerry decides to steal the eponymous marble rye from Mabel Choate.
Well, yeah, that's right, in the rye. And hopefully when, this guy gets caught and, he gets put on trial, she can testify against him.
Yeah, and hopefully is sentenced to a year in prison.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It'd be good for him.
Yeah. Second bit of news is through the week, the Critics' Choice Awards happened. We're in the middle of award season, and this is sort of one of the more, I guess, industry award ceremonies as opposed to like a big public award ceremony like the Oscars or the Emmys or something like that. And Jerry Seinfeld, as well as a newer comedian, I've never heard of her. Her name is Michelle Buteau, or Buteau, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They both tied for the best comedy special. So they both won the same award. And Jerry co-won for his latest Netflix documentary, 23 Hours to Kill.
Oh, yeah, from last year. Yep. Okay. Well, good for him.
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent.
And Michelle Buteau's comedy is called Welcome to Butopia. Obviously a play on words with her name there. And another sort of live stand-up comedy special, much like 23 Hours to Kill. So I'm definitely probably going to check that out.
Oh, that'd be awesome if I was Michelle. That'd be wicked being like, next to my idol. It'd be fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, winning is, speaks for itself, but winning alongside a legend like Jerry would sort of just sweeten it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure her profile will be raised.
Indeed. Like most things these days, all the people who were nominated and all the winners just came along to the ceremony remotely. And Jerry Seinfeld, you can watch his little acceptance speech on YouTube. If you just type in Critics' Choice Award, Jerry Seinfeld or something like that, you will be able to see it. Yep. He does give a nice little speech, acknowledging not only his win, but he also talked a bit about the importance of critics. A lot of people don't really like critics. They've got the, they're critics. Like,
what's the deal with critics?
Exactly. A lot of creative people, put their art and their selves out on the line, and there's always that fear or risk of getting sort of panned by critics, and I'm sure that would be very demoralizing. But Jerry, actually in his speech acknowledged the importance of critics and thanked them specifically because, according to him, critics make people better at whatever their craft is. So I thought that was a nice little acknowledgement.
Okay, at least he wasn't hanging shit on them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Jerry's not one to say many mean things about people. He's always quite polite and nice. Even if it's about someone or a group of people he may privately not like too much, he's always pretty diplomatic in that sense. But I just thought it was nice to acknowledge critics who are normally not very well liked, especially in creative industries.
No, true. But anyway, yeah, that's awesome. Good on him.
Yeah. So that's all the Seinfeld news for the week.
Very good, buddy. When we come back, we are celebrating our 4th anniversary of Bidwabast by talking about the secondary characters from our 4th last podcast episode from season 7, The Calzone.
Hello, folks. Matt McCoy here, a.k.a. Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld. And I'm telling you right now, I do not want to be a secondary character.
The Calzone from Season 7, Episode 20 was first aired in the US on April 25th, 1996, directed by Andy Ackerman and written by the duo Alec Berg and Jeff Schaefer. George gets Steinbrenner hooked on eggplant calzones from a local Italian restaurant called Paisano's, but George gets banned from the restaurant when he's accused of stealing from the tip jar. He then asks Kramer to pick up the calzones, but Kramer gets kicked out when he tries to pay with pennies. George's last resort in getting the calzones is Newman, Wayne Knight, who wants a cut of every delivery. Meanwhile, Kramer will only wear clothing if it's straight from the dryer and eventually the oven. Other secondary characters in the episode, John D'Aquino, he plays Todd Gack, who's Elaine's, sort of love interest in this episode in a very roundabout kind of way. Dylan Tays, she plays Nicki. She was credited as Danette Tays for the episode. Peter Alas plays Mario the counter guy. And of course, George Steinbrenner makes an appearance. We were saying off air before, Steve, that this is probably the most screen time he's had.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, pretty close. He's obviously the body was played, or the actor on screen is Lee Bear, but the voice, of course, is by Larry David. A couple of other minor characters. Greg Collins plays the policeman who pulls Nicki and Jerry over, and Jane A. Johnston plays Todd's mother. I couldn't find a credit for Todd's father, though. I looked everywhere. No luck.
Oh, okay. Maybe he was just a random extra or a crew or something.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, he's not even in the uncrediteds or nothing. He's just it's like Todd's mother. Here she is. Okay, cool. What about the father? Okay, sweet. Just some rando they pulled out of some department.
Yeah, he was probably one of the crew members, and they just said, "Hey, I'll give you extra $50 if you say this line."
Yeah. Nice. And he was able to eat for the week. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
So a bit of trivia about the episode, Steve, which actually was inspired the later episode, The Summer of George. Alec Berg, one of the writers of the episode, he had a crush on the actress Dylan Tays, who plays Nicki. And over the phone, Berg convinced Tays to go to the Oscars with him because he was writing jokes for the ceremony at the time, I forgot which year it was. He didn't say. And the story goes, unfortunately, when he went to pick her up, he found out that she had a boyfriend, a photographer who wasn't too thrilled to see him. And Dylan Tays had actually neglected to tell Alec about that on the phone, and that was inspired in the storyline for The Summer of George, where Jerry goes out on the date with the woman to take her to the theatre, and then there's Lyle.
Lyle's one of my favourites. I love Lyle.
Yeah. So that's the inspiration for The Summer of George. But yeah, true story. So the actress who played Nicki, didn't tell Alec about her boyfriend at the time. It's a bit awkward when he turned up.
I imagine for Dylan, I mean, unless Alec was openly flirting with her, maybe she thought, well, even though I'm with someone, the photographer, just being seen at the Oscars, is important, I guess, just for profile, especially if she's an up and coming actress. So maybe for her, it was more of just a almost strategic, move to be seen, especially with a writer of the bigger show at the time.
Yeah.
He was hoping, it was more of a romantic gesture. But
very smart by her.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I noticed that's different between her photographer boyfriend, this bit of trivia, I'm reading the same thing that you just read. It says that he wasn't too thrilled to see Alec, but Lyle is just completely happy-go-lucky, isn't threatened by Jerry at all. Completely opposite. He's almost happy. He almost considers Jerry a mate. Yeah,
and eventually he gets dumped by his girlfriend, and then she wants to be with Jerry. But I don't think that happened in real life, though.
No. I don't think that happened at all.
No. And would you believe it, Stephen? We have so many listeners from Canada, who listen to us, and there's so many Canadian fans on, Seinfeldisms on the Facebook page and stuff. I could not believe this trivia fact when I read it. Montreal is mentioned in the episode. It is the only city from Canada ever mentioned on the entire series. Would you believe it?
Yeah, it surprised me when I read that.
That's stunning.
I know. I thought at least once. Vancouver or Toronto would have been mentioned, or just
Nothing.
Canada. I'm sure Canada is mentioned in general, but it's the only city in Canada that's mentioned.
The only Canada reference I can think of off the top of my head was when Kramer, they say you want to watch the Super Bowl or something, and Kramer says, I only watch Canadian football.
Yeah.
That's really the only Canadian reference I can think of. But yeah, no, I'm really stunned. You're right. There's like not Toronto or Vancouver, nothing, Calgary, none of those cities were ever mentioned. That's really stunning.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. The first bit of trivia I have is the creed of the United States Postal Service, according to George, says neither rain nor blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it's actually neither snow nor rain. So George is trying to make a point to Newman that, he should be working in the rain because it's the first thing in their creed or their commitment. It's actually wrong. It's the second thing.
The second thing. Okay, so Newman's kind of half right.
Yeah, I mean, George still has a point. But
he does, yeah.
Even if the whole creed was just about working in the rain, it wouldn't bother Newman. Newman just does what Newman wants to do.
Yeah, he just calls in sick. He's got so much clout at the USPS, he can just get away with it.
Yeah, he's a bit of a prima donna.
Yeah, a prima donna with lots of leverage.
Yes, definitely.
Funny thing is, in the last scene, Steinbrenner states that he smells a pennant, and later that year, the New York Yankees won the pennant 15 years after their last one. So, because I think our understanding was, Steve, that I think in the 90s, like the Yankees were like, a joke team. They were like a former, a team who had like former glory and had like a wonderful history of like successful, players and, won lots of like World Series and stuff. But in like the late 80s, early 90s, they were a bit of like a fallen has-been kind of team. So yeah, it was interesting how like this episode aired and then they won a pennant straight after, which kicked off the whole thing for them.
Yeah, it's one of those fortunate little coincidences. It reminds me a bit of the episode that we did last week with the non-fat yogurt, how they kind of had to film two endings depending on who was going to win the mayoral election.
Yeah, yeah.
Like obviously at this stage during filming, whenever this episode was filmed, they didn't know who was going to be in the final. But it just kind of reminds me that where they, the episode unintentionally or unknowingly predicts an outcome.
Yeah, and then in the episode, The Millennium, I think season 8, George is driving around with the Super Bowl trophy connected to the back of the car to try and get fired. So,
not the Super Bowl, the World Series.
The World Series. Shit, Super Bowl's NFL, isn't it? Oh, crap. I got them confused. Sorry, World Series. Sorry, American sports fans. Yes, we love our ball sports in Australia.
Love sports ball.
Go local sports team.
Go local sports team.
Go local. Yes. Yeah, we do love our sports ball. Yes, sorry, World Series. That's what I meant. He has a World Series trophy in the back of the car. Connected to the back, trying to ruin it. So there you go. So in the mid '90s, the Yankees were revitalized. Yeah,
it reminds me a bit of the Lakers and the Celtics. Up until the late '80s, they were the sort of the teams to beat, really, for the last sort of 40 or 50 years, more or less. Every decade they had different greats. Like the '70s, they had Wilt Chamberlain, and then the '80s they had Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. The 60s, I think the 50s and 60s, the Celtics won 8 straight NBA championships. But then by the 90s...
Yeah, 50s, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 50s and 60s. By the 90s, both teams were kind of... Yeah, they went through this like long drought and it's not like they were just an average team. They were both very bad.
Yeah.
And obviously the
Bulls destroyed them. The Bulls just dominated.
No one stood a chance. You got Jordan and the rest. But when they kind of rebuilt in the early 2000s with like Shaq and
Kobe Bryant
and the Celtics, I kind of lost interest in basketball in the mid 2000s. So I'm sure the Celtics have improved in some ways as well. But yeah, I think every team, even the legendary teams, go through. They can't sort of be on top forever. They have to have periods of time where things just don't work out, but they come back around.
Rebuilding phases, they call them.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking before about, go local sports team. One time I was watching an AFL game. I went to an AFL game with a friend and her American now husband. And he was aware of AFL because he'd lived in Melbourne for a little while, but he didn't know much about it and he'd never been to a game. And it was actually quite funny because he was making fun of his own ignorance by yelling out. He's a really like loud, kind of boisterous guy. And he was saying things like kick a touchdown or like, like pass the baseball. Like he was intentionally making but he had no idea what was going on.
Foul ball.
Yeah. Just like kick a touchdown or like, kick a home run.
Just to try and, stir people up.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was just nice that he was like, I have no idea what's going on and I'm just going to make light of it. It was very fun.
Oh, very good. Does he watch AFL now as far as you're aware? Like he's figured it out?
I haven't talked to them for a while, but
okay.
He seemed to have a good time. I mean, it was a sold out match. It was at the MCG, which for our
fantastic
Australian listeners is like, the stadium in Australia. And a packed out match at the MCG is 95,000 people in the atmosphere. Even if you don't like sports or like the sport you're watching, you can't beat 100,000 people cheering on. It's electric. So
it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good time. I think by the end he had a slightly better understanding of it, and
that's good.
Maybe he's a passionate fan now. I don't know.
Oh, who knows? He's probably barracking or supporting one of the teams.
He might move back to America and start an AFL league there.
Why not? I think there are a couple of amateur ones over there.
There probably is.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, if you play AFL in the US, hello, let us know. We'd be curious.
Yeah, but no padding.
No padding. That's right. Yes, it's all no helmets, just balls.
I like that one.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about some secondary characters, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let's start with Todd Gack, probably the most prominent secondary in this episode. Well, besides Steinbrenner and Newman, of course. He's played by actor, producer, and writer John D'Aquino. He's most known for No Way Out and Quantum Leap. He's appeared in other TV shows, including Sequest, DSV, Jag, and Corey in the House. So I feel like with Todd, he's a very intelligent person. I mean, he can outsmart Elaine, and then he can outsmart someone like Nicki, who always seems to get her way no matter what.
Yeah, no, he's definitely someone who is, I don't know, he's good at, I guess, playing the game, whatever game that is. He's someone who uses his mind. And at first, I guess it's kind of harmless. He's just, as Jerry describes it, he's found a dating loophole, which, is not super manipulative or super creepy. But as the episode goes on, you realize that he's actually just, using his intelligence to sort of leverage, having that over these women. And he doesn't do anything horrible, but he's a bit skeezy.
A bit skeezy. I mean, he doesn't just come out directly and say, we're going out on a date or something. It's like he has a fear of commitment or something like that. Like maybe I feel like he's probably too scared to say to someone, look, we're boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever. And he probably just kind of wants the illusion of going out on a date, but maybe he doesn't want to kind of express it in his own way. I feel like maybe because his parents turn up in a scene later on when Elaine meets them. And obviously, when you're dating someone and you meet their parents, you don't usually meet them right away. It usually takes a month or two before you, before you meet them. And I feel like maybe Todd's parents have probably said to him that, he's getting older, he's not married, and they've probably tried to push him to find someone to settle down with. And maybe Todd is kind of doing it in a roundabout way to kind of impress his parents. So that's why his parents turned up. He wanted to say, oh, look, Mum and Dad, I found someone, even though he's not even though it's hard to establish that Elaine and Todd are actually partners, if you know what I mean.
No, I think you're right. I think, he is getting a bit older. He's mid to late 30s, I guess, maybe even pushing 40.
Yeah.
And even if it's not just his parents telling him that he should sort of get a move on, it's probably coming from himself as well. He probably wants to settle down or, get married and maybe have a family or something. And maybe he's just trying to fast track the dating process. So he's kind of...
Oh, okay. The other way around. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's short-circuiting the dating process by, because when you say, it's not always the case with everyone, but dating is a fairly established routine. You meet someone, you usually go for a drink, and then or maybe coffee, something a bit more light. And then if you like them, you might go for dinner or something a bit more serious. And then, over time, you might spend the night and then meet the parents. It's not exactly the same for every couple, but it tends to follow a reasonably standard kind of routine.
Yeah. Well, Jerry said once in a comedy sketch that going on a date's like going for a job interview, except you end up with all your clothes off at the end.
Yeah, it's a naked job interview.
Naked job interview. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Or a job interview with nudity at the end. That's only if you're hired, though. A lot of the time you don't meet the performance criteria to be employed. If you get my drift.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I do.
Sometimes it's maybe not. But and just no. I like your idea of he's trying to sort of find someone. And I just thought, well, why would he intentionally say that it's not dating, even though it is? I think Elaine's right in that, hang on, we are dating. Why you call it dating? And Todd's just trying to say, well, why can't just two people go out? I think he's trying to short circuit the dating process and accelerate it because as he gets older, he has less time. So by calling it not dating, you're kind of eliminating the need to go through that normal kind of process, which can take months. And he's just going straight to, do I like this person? Do my parents like these people within a date or two? He's kind of accelerating because he has less time. And I think...
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think by calling it anything but dating, he's taking that expected time frame away, especially from the women that he meets.
Yeah, I mean, what they're doing constitutes a date. I mean, you're going out on a Saturday night. Well, opposite sex, but of course, same sex as well. You're going with someone who is either opposite or same sex, whatever. And yeah, you're going out to do whatever, and that constitutes a date.
Yeah, and I mean, a date doesn't always imply romantic or sexual intentions. You can go on a date with a friend and it's just, you're just hanging out with someone you like and it's platonic and that's fine. But I think Elaine's just trying to make a point of like, well, we're not just, this is not a platonic interaction. Like there's, you have some sort of agenda here, and I'm just trying to figure out why you're not calling it dating. And, I get some people are against labels, and I respect that in some circumstances, but Elaine's not trying to make him categorize it as dating for a specific reason. She's just trying to sort of have a general understanding of what's going on. And dating is just, a generally used term to describe, you meet someone you like to see if there's some sort of attraction, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, she's trying to cross-examine like what Todd's intentions are. Yeah, she's basically saying, Todd, do you want to proceed further with this relationship, or do you just want to have a bit of fun, or like what are you trying to achieve here? Yeah,
and I mean, I don't think she's worried about the fact that he's not saying the word dating specifically. But again, dating is probably the most commonly used word, and in her situation, it's just shorthand for what are we doing? Is this dating? You might not want to say dating specifically, but is this something even akin to dating? You need to give me some, something here so I know where you're coming from.
Where you stand, yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he's like, no, it's, we're just two people who want to hang out. That's fine. But then he goes in to kiss her. She's like, hang on, what are you doing? Like, and I'm on Elaine's side in this of like, you don't have to say the word dating specifically, but there is some agenda here that is at least akin to dating. So either use dating, the word, or something like it. Don't just say it's nothing, because it's obviously something.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, because that's why I thought maybe Todd kind of wanted to kind of just go to Lane on, to try and make it look like he was going on a date, to try and impress his parents. But you're saying that he actually does want to, settle down and stuff. So, because he's so time poor, he just wants to go through. He wants to cut through do a shortcut and just go straight into the relationship.
Yeah, I think so. Again, because I think it's not true in every circumstance, but if you are dating someone, if you are just actively dating in the world, and you meet someone, again, that relationship to turn into something from dating to something more serious, a lot of the time follows a standard time frame, which can take months. But if you kind of want to short circuit that or shortcut that, you say, well, it's not dating, we're just hanging out. And that way I can get away with introducing you to the parents, because it's not part of the normal dating script. I'm just saying, if you like my parents, and you kind of like, you're accelerating something that normally takes a few months. And by omitting the word dating, or just saying it's, whatever you want it to be, you're just crunching it down to a very succinct time frame so that he can just cycle through women or potential partners in a shorter amount of time until he meets someone who wants to be with him or is on the same page. I think he immediately is turned off by Elaine, because Elaine's sort of pushing back on him. He's got an idea of like, well, I'll kind of lead Elaine on and not use the word dating, and she's not having a bar of it. She's like, hang on, what are we doing here? And then he's like, well, this is not going to work. This doesn't fit my plan. So I'll immediately go to Nicki.
Yeah, I'll go to Nicki. And I think he's done the same for her, to Nicki as well. And I think he's probably done this several times. He's kind of led women on, and then women don't know where he wants to stand, and they've probably just broken up with him. They've had enough. So I think he's probably done the same thing with Nicki too. Yeah,
I think it's just in the time frame of like, I just need to cycle through as many women as I can, and when I meet the right person who doesn't have a problem with how I describe dating as a process or as a ritual, if you like, or as a format, whatever you want to say, when I meet the right person, then I'll try and make it more serious or something.
I think he's probably been lonely for the rest of his life. I don't think he's found someone. I think all the women have been impatient, and they've kind of just left because they don't understand what Todd wants. And I feel like he's going to be a perpetual loner.
Yeah, I think so. I think he just needs to just sort of not stick to a script, but just be a bit more honest and just say, it's dating if you want it to be. Like, it doesn't have to be dating specifically. It doesn't have to be something like exact from the get-go. You've got to. I think when you're meeting people and when you're interacting with people and they're putting their emotions out there and they're trying to find something a bit more serious, you've got to at least give them an idea of where you're coming from. If you're just 100% vague 100% of the time, people will react like Elaine does. Of like, well, hang on, like, I need to know something. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to tell me your specific intentions from the first date, but you just need to give me something so I kind of at least know where you're at, what you want.
Yeah.
I understand why I've said it, but I understand why Elaine is just a bit like, just not really having a bar of it, because it's like, you need to give me something.
Yeah, you got to give him something. And he's certainly not Dutch, I don't think. I think that's just a mistake by Kramer.
Yeah, it's just one of Kramer's like weird, like last week again in the non-fat yogurt when he's insisting that they have to rush to get to the lab because when the frozen yogurt melts, the molecules change, and when they get to the lab, Jerry's like, does it matter if the frozen yogurt's melted? And the lab tech is just like, no. I think Kramer's pretty he's pretty worldly, like he knows a lot of weird things and a lot of weird people that most people might not know much about, but he's also got a lot of like just unfactual garbage floating around in his brain.
Yeah, ignorance.
I think this is kind of like that, where he's just like, well, it must be Dutch. It's not based on anything. It's just a weird Kramer fact.
It's a good line, though.
Yeah, it's great, you know. And then Jerry kind of repeats it later on.
Oh, yeah, mirroring Kramer, yeah. But anyway, Todd Gack, we only see him in this episode, and he, I don't know, I guess for Elaine's storyline, he showed off a bit of stuff, and he was a very different character. Yeah,
he was one of the only people who kind of like completely had it over Elaine. Like Elaine, like you said at the top of Todd Gack's analysis, you know, she's very sharp, and she's probably she is the smartest, at least intellectually smartest, out of the core four, and one of the smartest people on the show, period. And the fact that Todd just sort of completely like
blindsides her, underhands her,
is a testament to his intelligence, and one of the only people that I can think of who completely, at least initially, gets it over.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, another character that Todd gets it over is Nicki, another secondary. She's played by Dylan Tays. She's known for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Waist Deep, and CSI New York. And Stephen, she starred in a commercial with Jason Alexander in the 90s for Rolled Gold Pretzel.
Yeah, I saw this in the trivia list.
I got to go on YouTube and watch it. It sounds interesting. Those pretzels are certainly making them thirsty, or me thirsty, I'm sure. I feel like with Nicki, you know, she's a very striking lady, very good looking, of course. I feel like she's been able to get away with this her whole life. I think she's been able to figure out how to manipulate people to get what she wants since a child, or since being a child. But obviously, as an adult, she does it more in like a sexual kind of manner. Obviously not as a kid. I feel like as a kid, she probably had like an innocent kind of manner, which helped her get what she wanted. And then when she matured and, you know, became an adult, she started doing things, trying to get like a male gaze, or the men to have like the male gaze to try and, to get stuff that she wants. Yeah. So I feel like it probably evolved as she got older, and she's been able to basically get anything she wants.
Yeah. I just wanted to push back a tiny bit. I don't think she's manipulating people. She's not. I think she's just aware of the intoxicating presence that she has, and that men just they're just dumbstruck by her beauty and by her energy, or whatever you want to call it. But you know, she's not being deceptive or dishonest or anything like that. She's aware,
she's using her looks to get stuff.
Yeah, she's very straightforward. She just says, "I want this. Can you please do this for me?" She's not being deceptive or dishonest. She's just aware of her effect over people, and mostly men. I don't think she's doing it in an unethical way. She's just taking advantage of something that
situations,
of this mystique or this power or this aura or whatever you want to call it that she has.
Yeah, and she doesn't even have to expose her cleavage or wear skimpy clothing to get that. I mean, all she is, like, she has such an aura about her. You just got to look at her face, and men are just hypnotized, and she can do what she wants.
Yeah, she doesn't have to sort of overtly sexualize herself or sexualize a situation, or she's not even very flirtatious. She's just
no.
She's just very kind of just direct and normal. But yeah, she's just got this energy or this intoxicating kind of presence about her. It's almost like a female Kavorka in a way.
Almost, yeah. A Kavorka, yeah.
Whereas Kavorka's a bit more of like a primal sexual energy. Hers is just this part of her attraction is that she's an objectively beautiful blonde woman. So there is a sexual element to her, but it's not this raw sexual energy that Kramer apparently has. But it just reminds me in that, it's this power that she has that she doesn't cultivate. It's just there, and she's aware of it, and she just takes advantage of it.
Yeah, and then Jerry also, like, by proxy, takes advantage of it too. He gets out of a speeding ticket, and even when the cop pulls him up, he knows he's been speeding, and Jerry knows that he's going to get away with it as soon as he gets pulled up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny, like, because you think, like, if someone just gave me a brief description of Nicki's character in this episode, initially you'd think, well, hang on, she does sound a bit manipulative, or she's a bit opportunistic, but it's funny that Jerry is actually, she's not really doing anything wrong. She's sort of just being used by Jerry's the one that's being manipulated.
That's using her, being manipulative.
He knows that she has this power, and he's using it to his advantage. So he's the one that's sort of he's the one that's using it as an advantage, but in a slightly more manipulative way.
So the joke is Jerry using it.
I think so, yeah.
Or taking advantage of it. Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, she's supposed to be a cliche, or she's supposed to be a representation of blonde, beautiful women, and how, there's that stereotype that beautiful people can just sort of get through life very easily. Like, they don't...
Yeah, they can just coast through. Give them one.
Will just bend over backwards for them and do whatever they want because they're beautiful. People just will do that. And I mean, I guess that's true to a certain extent. Attractive people probably have it a bit easier than unattractive attractive people.
Yeah, I'm sure they do get like some stuff that other, like unattractive people might not get.
Yeah. And I mean, attractiveness is a subjective thing, but I'm just talking about like objective, the way media presents attractiveness, I guess. I'm sure they get through life a tiny bit easier, maybe.
A little bit.
And she's supposed to be a representation of that stereotype, but in like an extreme manner where she just turns up, or she just stands in front of someone and they're almost like under a spell.
Yeah. And then they just basically, she just says, can I have this or that, or can you not do, give us a ticket, and it's done.
Yeah. And she's not being like manipulative or deceptive. She just power and uses it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, well, I used the wrong term.
Oh, no, I don't mean to be too overly corrective. I just wanted to say that I don't think what she's doing is inherently good. Like I'm sure she probably does use it to her advantage in slightly more selfish ways sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I just don't think manipulative was exactly, the right way to describe it. That's all.
Fair enough. And Todd eventually, tries the old Dustin Hoffman Star Wars trick. And what do you think happened with that relationship? I think they did eventually break up. But do you think maybe Todd was trying to be like Jerry and exploiting Nicki's kind of hidden talents?
Oh, for sure. I mean, if he's willing to sort of pretend that he doesn't know something to go on a date, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to think that he would also do what Jerry's doing as well. He does he does like kind of, playing games a bit. I think he would be perfectly capable of also doing what Jerry does and using that power she has to his advantage.
Yeah, I think in a hypothetical like scene, maybe they both went to the movies and Nicki said, let's watch Star Wars and see if you're right. And it was a sold out session to like Star Wars, like a remastered edition or something. And then Nicki, it was sold out and then ended up getting tickets.
I could almost imagine like a bit of a battle between Todd, like not a real battle, but like a battle of powers, if you like. Todd Gack, he's quite smart. Like he knows how to, just not in like this Machiavellian way, but he knows how to sort of like play with people a bit and manipulate situations slightly to get something. And, she doesn't do that, but she has that power. People do it. So I think for her, she has that power. She's under Jerry's thumb. Like he's walking a dog even when they're broken up.
When they break up. Yeah.
He's under her spell. And Todd Gack, that would be confronting to him because he's like, well, normally I'm the one that's sort of like playing the games and doing the stuff. And I could see like almost like a battle of wills in a way.
A battle of wits, yeah. Well, it's funny because the striking difference between Todd and Nicki is Todd actively uses his power, whereas Nicki passively uses it.
Yeah, Nicki's power is passive, but she also, she knows it's there. It's not something she has to turn on. It's just there. But, it is something that she is aware of. It's not just sort of...
Sounds like a Seinfeld Avengers spin-off or something.
Yeah, like a...
Justice League.
Yeah, it's not like pure good versus evil, but it's just like two people with different skills of getting people to do what they want. Todd's a bit more of an intellectual mind game player, and Nicki's just intoxicatingly beautiful. And, I can see that causing a bit of push and pull between them.
I think so. And that's why I don't think the relationship lasted either.
No. I think it would have been. It's almost like, that philosophical conundrum of what would happen if an unstoppable object smashed into an unmovable wall. Those two things can't coexist. Like those two things can't coexist in the universe. It's like Nicki's endlessly intoxicating beauty and Todd Gack's, brilliant ability to sort of trick women into going on dates with him. Those two things would just not be sustainable.
No, the whole world would collapse on itself.
I think so, yeah, basically. If they went on more than one date, the world gets sucked into a black hole.
Yeah, that's right. And then Seinfeld gets cancelled a couple of seasons later. Look what happened. They were the butterfly that caused the earthquake, the other side of the world, or the typhoon, whatever it is, tidal wave, yeah.
Indeed. Well, let's line it up again. Why don't we talk about Mario?
Yes, Mario the counter guy, played by Peter Allis, known for Spider-Man 2, SWAT, and California Man. So he works at the Italian restaurant or takeaway place, Paisano's. I think he's probably likely the son of the original owner. I think Paisano's is probably like maybe his dad or granddad started it, and he's kind of like working there and also kind of maybe doing a bit of management or whatever. Or maybe the dad still owns the business but doesn't work as much because he's a bit older. So I feel like Mario does a lot of the work.
Yeah, I mean, he's there, he's cooking the calzones, he's watching the tip jar, like he's on the ground doing the actual day-to-day, whereas his dad, probably used to do that, but he's stepped back a bit and he's a bit more of an overseer or, maybe...
Yeah, behind-the-scenes kind of person.
Yeah, whereas Mario's got to prove his worth or he's got to, he's got to do the hard yards like his dad did.
Yeah, for sure. He's a very short-tempered person. He blows a fuse quite easily, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's, again, he's another stereotype of like a very passionate, very angry, short-tempered, Italian man who sort of, instead of talking to people, he just yells at people.
Yells at them. I love how Michael Richards, like, there's the scene with Kramer and like getting his clothes dried in the pizza oven and they're all burnt. And then Kramer's like, Mario's doing like the stereotypical Italian thing of yelling and using the hands to gesture how angry he is. And then I love how Kramer's kind of babbling in like these kind of Italian, like made up mumbo jumbo words. And he's doing the same hand signals. I love it.
Yeah, he's like approximating sounds he's approximating Italian with kind of Italian-sounding sounds or verbiage.
But yes.
Yeah, it's a thing that is done a lot, where it's just like the Family Guy do it, they're like, bibbidi-boppidi-boopy. You kind of just say words and add that like sing-songy Italian accent to it. And the way that Michael Richards does it is great.
Yeah, it's great. It's fabulous. And then as he leaves, he puts his foot on the counter and just kicks it a couple of times, walks off.
Yeah, it's almost like flipping someone the bird. It's like, I'm going to put my foot on your counter. It's like a sign of disrespect or something.
Yeah, I'll put my dirty shoe on there.
This is what I think of you.
Yeah. I think that Mario is also a very violent person too. Like, because when George, well, first of all, before I do get into his violent tendencies, I think he probably thinks the worst of people. Like George doesn't even have time to explain what he's doing with his hand in the tipping jar. And Mario just assumes that he's stealing. So he doesn't give people a chance. Like, I think he just thinks the worst of people. He thinks everyone like is a thief. Everyone will try and con you. It's kind of sad. He's like a bit of a misanthropic person.
Yeah, he jumps to conclusions and
he does, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't give people the benefit of the doubt. But maybe he's like, in a way, like the soup Nazi. Obviously not as militant or strict, and a bit more, when he's not yelling, he's a very like nice, relaxed person. He's like, calzones, they're great. Like, they're the best. And like, he has a chat to George. Like, he's nice. It's only when someone ticks him off or when he perceives someone doing something wrong, he's not as like staunch and militant as the soup Nazi, but maybe similar thing. When we did the soup Nazi way back, that was our very first episode.
4 years ago to the day.
Yeah, we kind of theorized that, he'd had a lot of betrayal or misfortune in his past, and that kind of led him to have this really closed off lack of trust or faith in humanity and a zero tolerance policy for any sort of foolery.
Yeah.
He doesn't tolerate fools. And I think to a certain extent, again, not as extreme as the soup Nazi, maybe that's happened with Mario. Maybe he's just hardened over years of, like bad employees or bad customers or bad experiences in his personal life. Not that I'm excusing his violent temper, but, there might be a reason for it.
Well, or maybe on the other hand, maybe Mario doesn't think the worst of people. Maybe because I think because Paisanos is next to the Yankees Stadium, which is in the Bronx. Wasn't the Bronx like a rough area? Like, I'm not familiar with New York, but wasn't the Bronx like a rough part of town?
I think so.
At the time, maybe, yeah.
I guess like most parts of New York before gentrification, except maybe Manhattan, it was quite a working class.
Working class,
immigrant communities and stuff, and there was probably rough elements. But yeah, I wouldn't know. Yeah. I wouldn't know specifically.
So maybe Mario's been the victim of like robberies, like at the store, or he's probably had people like grab stuff out of the tip jar and run off. Maybe he's seen it, because when George tries, like, he gets caught and Mario thinks that George is stealing. Mario pulls out the pizza, like the tray thing, right away to try and hit George, to threaten him with it. So I think he's probably been on the receiving end of like a robbery attempt, or maybe he's had a few, from some ruffians who've come into the store. So maybe he's got to be a bit more defensive with weapons and stuff.
Yeah, and just sort of on that line of thinking, I'm sure, if there was, like any sports team, the Yankees fans are quite passionate, and I'm sure they get a bit rowdy when the Yankees lose. So I'm sure, baseball games go for 3 or 4 hours. I can imagine a lot of Yankees fans getting a bit drunk and not being in the best mood after a game, and then coming there for dinner after a game, or a late night feed, maybe being just a bit rowdy and a bit rambunctious, and just sort of being jerks, like drunk sports fans, or drunk people in general. But like, I don't know, like kind of similar to like soccer hooligans, where they just sort of, they get a bit out of control and they take it personally, and they just get a bit rambunctious and cause a bit of trouble.
Rambunctious. And they probably tried to grab the tip jar and all that stuff.
Just give
Mario doesn't like it.
He probably tests his patience.
Oh, yeah.
And I can imagine his, because his store, he's always busy anyway because it's so highly regarded. But being, how many people fit in Yankee Stadium? 50, 60, 80,000, whatever. Imagine how many people would crowd his store before and after a game day. It would be...
Oh, yeah, lots.
And add booze to that, and add just the sort of the vibe, of a hometown sports game. It would get a bit rowdy, and I'm sure
and you can see why Mario's.
I'm sure it's stressful, and it tests his patience, and I'm sure some jerks come out of those scenarios and do the wrong thing, and he's probably just like, well, Yeah, it just seems like he's worn down more than he. I don't think
worn down. Yeah,
I don't think he's like an angry person entirely. I'm sure outside of the stories a bit more calm because he does have those calmer conversations with Kramer and George. But just he has a very, very low tolerance and not much patience for anything, even if he's not right. George is trying to explain, but he just jumps to a conclusion because he's been burned so many times.
So many times, yeah. Well, like Kramer's clothes being burned in the oven, you know. I think he's happy to do favors for people as well. Like he even puts Kramer's clothes in the pizza oven. Obviously, he takes them out and they're all burnt to a crisp. And then Kramer says, "What are these?" And he goes, "I don't know anything about clothes. I don't know nothing about clothes." I
couldn't imagine him doing the clothes cooking thing for anyone but Kramer.
But Kramer, no.
Kramer just has that like unexplainable charm where if George came in and was like, "Hey, my clothes are wet, can you put them in the oven?" He'd probably say, "What?" and tell him to piss off. But Kramer is immediately, people just gravitate towards him, and he just has that charm offensive. But
he does.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone else but Kramer. He broke through the hard exterior of the soup Nazi, which is not something many people, if any other people, can do. So not that this is about Mario per se, but just about that scene.
And that's probably not even the weirdest request Mario had for that day.
No, I'm sure.
Sure, he had worse.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants a lot of things put in his big pizza oven.
No, I'm sure, and more. Anyway, that's all I had about Mario. What about you, bud?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. I guess you said you wanted to talk about Steinbrenner and Newman off air a little bit. So, because Steinbrenner, obviously, he's the most prominent. Well, this is probably the most screen time he has in any episode.
Yeah, I mean, nothing happens with Steinbrenner in this episode that is different to any of the other. He's just a crazy man. He's just a ranting lunatic, very impulsive and just unpredictable and chaotic. He's very much like that in this episode. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just worth noting his increased screen time in this episode.
Yeah, and he says that to George that when he has something, he sticks with it. So he'd been eating the same, chili bowl in the bread for, so many years. And calzones are his next thing to eat. His next addiction. He just sticks with it.
I didn't think of this, but they kind of contradict each other because Steinbrenner is a very chaotic, impulsive, unpredictable person. He just like shoots off at the mouth and like says stuff and makes people do
stuff and then he regrets it later.
Yeah, and he just sort of like there's not a lot of like rhyme to his what's the word?
Rhyme to his reason. No, rhyme and reason. There's no method to his madness.
That's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of method to his madness. It's just sort of whatever comes out of his brain, it comes out of his mouth. But, someone who eats the same lunch every day for 12, 13 years, to me, that would be someone who's like very organized and methodical and thoughtful and like almost predictable. So the fact that Steinbrenner is very, very committed to a lunch, is sort of contradictory to his personality in general. I just thought that was an interesting little unexpected character trait of his.
Yeah. Well, I think like with, like high profile business people or very busy like CEOs and stuff, people like Steve Jobs, like when he was around, he'd wear the same outfit all the time. And I think it was a situation where like he didn't have time to pick outfits. So he just like grabbed the same one because he had other stuff to do. I think Barack Obama was the same too. I think he only had like a certain number of suits and like he didn't have time to like, pick which one. So he just had like 4 or 5 he liked and he just grabbed them as he went. So he didn't have to think about it. So I guess Steinbrenner is probably the same.
Yeah, no, that I understand what you're saying, but I guess like with Steve Jobs and Barack Obama, those parts of their personality make sense because overall they're both very like considered, organized, nearly predictable people. They're not sort of like Barack Obama or Steve Jobs didn't just get up on the podium and just rant and rave and carry on like lunatics. So it makes sense within what you understand of who they are that they're very orderly. They like predictability and routine because they're busy and that's just the way their mind works. Whereas Steinbrenner's mind is it's a circus.
Oh, it's a circus.
It's just a bit out of line with, I understand what you're saying and it might be a conscious choice of his. Well, I'm very busy. Maybe I can just simplify one aspect of my life, but it's just unexpected given how chaotic his mind is.
Yeah, fair enough. And he falls in love with the calzone. He has a bite in the first scene and he loves it and he wants to stick with it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he becomes obsessed. He sort of, it's almost like the calzone, the smell of the calzone is almost like Nicki's
allure,
yeah, where he just becomes, he loses the ability to think and he becomes completely overwhelmed and, entranced by
it's almost like a primal urge for him when he smells.
He becomes obsessed and like a dog with a bone. He's like, I can't not find out where this smell's coming from.
I got to drop everything. I got to drop meetings for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And just a little bit about Newman. So we find out, he's lazy as fuck, as we all know. But we find out he doesn't work in the rain.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another example of Newman finding any reason not to do even the bare minimum. He's lazy as fuck. He He dumps a lot of his mail. He's a little brat. He's a little boy.
A little brat and a little boy, and he loves paisanos, and he uses leverage against George because he knows that George, needs to impress Steinbrenner. And I love when he says, "Oh, I hear that George Steinbrenner can get pretty angry."
Yeah, he's just taking advantage. It's a typical Newman move where he has something over someone, and it's not even a big deal. Like he's just he's going to get some free pizza and stuff. Like who cares? But for him, it's just like another little. He loves that sort of like little game playing, mind game stuff. And just winning little victories because that's just his personality. Everything's kind of like theatrical and Shakespearean and ridiculous. Where George is just like, "Hey man, can you do me a favor?" Like George just is trying to get him to help him out. But for Newman, it's like this thing that he has to win and make into like
the master manipulator.
Yeah, like make into this ridiculous kind of game.
Yeah. And Newman, well, he does win out until George can't get the calzones anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Newman won. It doesn't. I mean, neither of them really get what they want out of it. But Newman gets it over George.
Yeah, he does. But anyway, I think that were all the secondary characters from today. Yeah,
that's it.
All right, let's go to one more break, and when we come back, we are finding out where the calzone sits in our episodes we have done so far, and if any of today's newer secondary characters make our top 20.
Can I have your license and registration, please? Absolutely. Nicki!
Yeah?
Would you mind bringing the officer the registration?
Not at all.
I got you on the radar at 93 miles per hour. Huh. You must have got me when I slowed down to take that curve because for a while there, I was doing well over 100.
Officer. Hi. Do you really have to give us a ticket?
All right, Nick. Let's hit it.
Now, Stephen, out of 166 episodes we have done so far, with 3 more episodes remaining after this one, where does the calzone sit for you?
This one sits at number 29.
29? Wow. Very, very high up for you.
Yeah, no, I really like this episode.
Yeah, it was a cracker.
Yeah, I think it's a really underrated episode. I mean, it is, a lot of people do talk about it, but it's not up there with like the classics. And I don't think it's as good as, the all-timers, but I think it's pretty close.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, Steinbrenner's great. George, Newman, Kramer's on fire in this episode. I thought it's one of the...
His clothes are on fire too.
Exactly, that's true. It's one of those rare episodes where all of the episode boyfriends and girlfriends are really, really good. They're all different.
Yeah, they actually have quite a bit of depth to them.
Yeah, like Nicki's intoxicating sort of allure is not something that we've seen before in any of the others, and Todd Gack's ability to just sort of get it over Elaine is not something we've seen. So I thought they were really, really sort of refreshing concepts or takes or aspects of the characters. And, they really add to the storyline. I just really like this episode. What about you?
Me, the nice number 69.
Oh,
nice. Yeah, no, enjoyable episode. And definitely probably one of the most underrated season 7 episodes. I enjoyed it. I thought all the storylines were great. And like you said, I like how there was more depth to the episode boyfriends and girlfriends. And usually sometimes it's Elaine and Jerry trying to get something out of the boyfriend and girlfriend. But this time it's actually the boyfriend and girlfriend that's instigating the subplots, which I like.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, I didn't think of that. But just the reversing of dynamics where it's normally Jerry and Elaine or Elaine sort of having the upper hand in the relationship, whereas in this one, even though Jerry takes advantage of Nicki's power, Nicki still kind of has the upper hand. Like she could just flip it on its head if she wanted to.
Yeah, she can.
Jerry walks her dog even after they're broken up, and and Gack until Elaine figures out what's going on. Todd Gack kind of has it over Elaine, so that's a nice difference as well.
Yeah, it was good. It was certainly refreshing.
Indeed. Do any of the secondary characters appear in your top 20? None
of the newer ones, but George Steinbrenner is number 1 in my top 20, and Newman is number 5. What about you?
Yeah, same. None of them.
Oh, sorry, number 10 for Newman. My mistake.
No, I really did like all the secondaries. Mario, is, if I had a top 30, he'd probably appear. Even though he's not an old angry man, he's a younger angry man. He still has a lot of the traits that I like in my secondary characters.
Lovely. He will become an old curmudgeon, Italian dude one day.
At some point, yep. In 30
years, at some point.
Top 10.
For sure. Anyway, that was Bidwabast. Thank you so much for listening. That was our 4th anniversary episode and also our 4th episode or last episode of the entire series. And next week, Stephen, we are doing a cracking season 9 episode, The Serenity Now.
Nice. Classic episode.
can't wait. You can listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. Give us a 5-star review if you could. We'd really appreciate it. And you can find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. We also have Discord and TikTok with no one on it at the moment. So just you can find all those links in the show notes. And Stephen, you can support us financially as well.
That's right. For one-off donations, you can use our PayPal. And if you want to contribute something a bit more regularly, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/BIDWBASC. And for a couple of bucks a month, you do get access to a lot of bonus content. Curbcast, our fictional season 11, which we've just recorded the final episode of, and should be available to our patrons by the time this episode goes out, as well as a whole back catalogue of interviews and reviews and all sorts of stuff, and our normal episodes a week early than our regular listeners.
That's right, and you can still support us. I mean, we've got plenty of stuff happening after Bidwell Ask ends, so like I've said the last couple of weeks, you might be thinking you only got, 4 episodes now, 3 left, what's the point of maybe I shouldn't sign up? Well, you can get all that bonus stuff and future stuff. We're going to revamp the Patreon page over time, and you're going to get some different things.
That's right. Lots of cool things coming up, and we'll reveal all those details over the next few weeks as we wrap up the Bidwell Ask. But until next week, when we do the Serenity Now, I am Stephen.
And I'm Ivan.
And we'll catch you all next week for the Serenity Now.
Serenity Now!